Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Giving Spring podcast. Today we have two very special guests, one that's also my co-host for today, and they will introduce themselves. But before they do, I just want to talk more about what this episode is gonna be about, what you can expect. So in today's episode, we're gonna talk more about facilitating or lecturing and what that looks like with mental health as well as academic in an academic environment. So stay tuned. Take a Red Bull, sip them, and enjoy this episode.
Hello, everyone. I am Okeri, and as Siobhan said, I am the co-host for today, and I'm excited to be here with you all.
Hi, my name is Eunice Sibotoboto. I am a learning facilitator, mostly for business management modules, and the fun part is I get to do it at a college of psychology. Interesting. And I'm a mother of 3 boys. I'm also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm alive.
Most important.
Yes.
Okay.
And I am a facilitator. I like to call myself a facilitator because when you deal with learning and education, you understand that unlike back then in the days when you used to think that the teacher or whoever stands in front of you knows everything, and kind of like has to download all the information that they have on you. So it's not that. I think of it as a way of helping you to reach a certain level of understanding, and taking note that at that moment I know much more than you do. So I'm hoping that I can help you to figure out how to learn as I also continue learning as well. So it's a kind of a we do this together thing. So I prefer calling it facilitating more than just educating or being a lecturer. Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been a facilitator?
Okay. So
and what skills can I say have you learned?
So it's been 12 years now. And originally, I didn't want to be in the higher education. I always thought of being in the kind of like high school setting because I love young people and I love their energy. So I thought it'd be much more interesting to deal with them. But I didn't get to do that. I ended up in the higher education, and I started off actually teaching adults, those that were already working, but they had not gotten their matric certification and they needed to continue with their learning. And so I would facilitate their learning. And so it would be like normal subjects for high school. And my expertise is mostly in business modules. So I would help with business studies, economics, and academic literacy, or mathematical literacy, and mathematical literacy. And from there, I had to move to Joburg, obviously, and in Joburg, I considered studying psychology. So I was at a point where I actually thought, you know what, I loved psychology. I know I ended up in education, but I would have loved psychology. And part of education, when you're learning to be an educator, you have to learn some parts of psychology for you to be able to know how to handle conflict, how to deal with learning, the learning environment in the class. And I was looking to try and see where can I study psychology. And I came across the South African College of Applied Psychology, and I thought, let me just apply and see. But when I was checking, I actually saw they've got modules that they teach in business. I'm like, let me see if I can apply. I'd love to be in that environment and see. So I ended up teaching business modules in a psychology environment. So it's still intriguing. I want to see how far I can go, but in the meantime, I'm still focusing on business management.
That does sound very interesting, and I like how you linked psychology with education, because you do need to kind of really understand your students as well to be able to help them. And I think with that, how have you seen that, like how does mental health affect students' academic background, academic
progress?
Progress.
Okay, so it's funny that even when you're growing up as a child, from the day you're born, you're learning. And you find out that the environment that the person grows up in or that they learn in has a lot to do with what they actually do learn. So as an educator, it's different for as I'm describing right now, how children learn compared to how adults learn. But you find out that the mind has to be at the right place for you to actually absorb the information that you have or that you're supposed to absorb. And it's important for students to be aware of themselves and who they are, how they feel, how they think, because that awareness, it helps them to know at what point or what strengths they can have in learning and what weaknesses they can have. So if your mind is not in the right place, whether it's something that happened at home or an experience that you just had before you enter that learning, or in class for that matter, there's so much pressure as well for as an educator, because you have a student and sometimes the environment that you create as an educator actually affects whether or not they're learning. So mental health is essential. Positive mental health is essential when it comes to you being able to absorb new knowledge and link it with your life and actually retain it. Yeah.
And I think with, learning or teaching students, you also mentioned like how it's a two-way street. So what have you learned so far from like your students in regards to mental health?
Okay. So I think one thing that I've learned is that maybe I can look at it from my perspective and then also their perspective. So from my perspective it's important that I actually know my students. That I know something about them, not just the fact that they are here to learn, but what is happening with them, who are they, what challenges are they facing, and when I learn about them and learn who they are, then in my teaching or facilitating, I'm able to know what strategy to use for them to actually absorb the information that I'm trying to help them to understand. I'll give you an example. I recently had a student whose pet died. And you know how we as humans, really pets, they mean so much to us. And they're therapeutic as well, because they help us deal with a lot of emotions. And sometimes we grow up in a family where we're just by ourselves. We don't have any siblings. And the pet becomes like that lifeline for you, where you can express your emotions and you can actually develop as a person, but everything that you are is linked to this pet. And then to have your pet die, and you are in the middle of a semester, maybe about to submit an assessment or something, it does affect you. So emotionally, my student wasn't there. So and they were such a pleasant student. You can tell when someone is excited to be learning and studying, and all of a sudden you can see the change of behavior, and I need to find out what is wrong. So I have to try and reach out and say, are you okay? What's happening? So before I even talk about, hey, you have an assessment, you need to submit, what's happening with you? And then they get to let me know that, you know what, I lost my pet, and somehow I'm not able to bring myself back to really focus on what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I have to figure out a way. Okay, so do you want to take some time off and calm down a little bit, ask for help? Like, I'm fortunate that the college that I work at, there's always mental support that is there for anyone who needs it. But sometimes it's just them needing a time out, and I have to remind them that, remember, you can take time, but you need to come back, because you still need to move on. Life is still there for you, but allowing them to know that they can breathe. It's okay to take a moment and breathe. And then when they come back, so I don't know, I hope that I've built a sense of trust that they know that it's okay to grieve, but because if we don't grieve, then we're blocking our mental capability and capacity. So I just need to accommodate that. And then for others, it would be maybe an overload of information, for example, at that moment, because new information is always new information, and then they get anxious. And when they're anxious, they fidget. You can see they are here, but they are not here. So what do? Again, you take a moment and figure out, okay, you're not okay, what's wrong? And they say, you know what, I've been sitting for so long, and I don't know how to do that for too much. So now you have this information that I need to understand, but I've been sitting. Then I say, stand up. So I say to my students, and they say, I say, even if we're learning, if you actually feel like standing and walking up and down, it's okay. Stand up, walk down. As long as it's not disturbing the setting. And if I do ask you a question and I need you to participate, I better hear you, because walking is just something that your physical body is doing, but your brain, I still need it here. And then I say to some, if you feel like doing push-ups, how about you do 10 push-ups? Like, don't worry, we're not going to ask you anything. We'll know that you just need something. And mostly it happens with students that are kinesthetic. So you find students that learn, but they need to be doing something for them to learn. So you're free to do it. You're here, we're in class, we're all adults, as long as you're not disturbing. And actually it's refreshing for others as well to see, oh, you're doing 5 push-ups. Maybe it's a good break that we need to laugh a little bit, and then we quickly get back to work.
I mean, I would like to have that in my setting, when I would like learn, like have a lecturer just know who I am personally, or have like a lecturer know like we also have lives and a lot of other things happen in our lives. Maybe you can, someone maybe has a loss of like the grandfather or grandparents dying, and then you have to come to class. And you think showing up is all that you need to do, but then paying attention, and then obviously your mind will obviously wander, and to have that from like a lecturer's point of view, facilitator's point of view, where it's like they know that we have lives and they still are able to accommodate us and be there for us. That's such a nice way. So thank you for doing that on your students' behalf. I don't know if there's any other students watching. I hope you guys appreciate her. But for me, if you were my lecturer, that would be one of the most important qualities that I'd love to have in a lecturer.
Yeah, no, I do. I also agree. And I think it also comes in with the passion, because not every facilitator or lecturer can do that. And I think for you, already starting with you preferring the word facilitator, it shows that, you're not just there to do your job and move on. You're doing this because you care about your students, you care about their well-being. So it is really, I think it would be very effective if many institutions could have that. But it is unfortunate that some institutions are too big. They have too many learners where you can't really form that personal relationship with your students. So I think, like Siobhan says, it would be, I would really love that. And I actually do get that as well. And I do see the difference in my performance, because you do feel like, this lecturer also cares about me. So I also want to put in my A game. I want to make sure I perform, because I feel like someone cares about me succeeding as well. So it is really interesting just to see how much you love this.
Yeah, definitely. No, I do love it. And just as you're talking, I'm thinking right now that one of the things that I also keep in mind is, as you're saying, that as a student, you'd love it if you know that the educator does care and they want you to succeed. And I always think of it that if I tell my students, if you think that there you are, you enter a place of learning, an institution of learning, and you think everybody wants you to fail, actually that would defeat the purpose. My role is to help you to gain knowledge and expertise that is going to help you to go out there into the world and make a difference and actually save lives, especially for psychologists. So if you feel stuck, for example, and we talk about mental health and you're learning, and sometimes even the concepts that you're learning about are not so easy to grasp because we're all different. Some concepts are easy to understand and some are not. And I say to them, if you're feeling stuck, you come and consult. Come and ask me, this is what I've done, and I can't move forward from here. How do I move forward? And that's where I come now, and I scaffold and I help you from where you are so you can overcome this obstacle that is in your way, and then you can see yourself continuing. So again, it fills up the mental health, because then you don't have to be stressed and depressed and it escalates because you're like, I don't know what I'm expected to do. Come to me. That's my role. I'm going to help you to know what you're expected to do. I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm going to give you questions that are going to help you to see where you are stuck in thinking about it. And in the end, you win, I win. So
That's beautiful.
Then I'm happy.
Truly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the most common psychological struggles students face in the academic excellence today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I usually say, when you have to make a judgment, I say to my students all the time, you have to have statistics. You can't just tell me something and there's no evidence that you have to prove. So I can't speak for the whole of South Africa, but I'll say that in my observation, One thing that, not one, but one of them is anxiety. And the other one is feeling the pressure of wanting to look like you know what you're doing in front of your lecturer or facilitator, instead of actually allowing yourself to stumble upon things and discovering what it is that you're learning. And it doesn't help that we have AI now, hey, because anything that is stressful, the student is like, nope, I'm not going to be stressed. Let me see what AI thinks. And once I know what AI thinks, then there's always a temptation of trying to grab everything that AI is saying instead of using it as a tool. Because, I mean, come to think of it, we are living in the age where tools are available now that students can actually use. But when you are feeling stressed and you're feeling some pressure, it can affect you, obviously, mentally, because stress anyway is related to mental health. And students don't want, I would say, any kind of stress. But in real life, we do need some kind of stress, because that's what helps us to challenge ourselves to do something better. So anxiety and stress related to wanting to look like you know what you're doing. And obviously our social environment, because I mean, as we said earlier, that students are human beings, and all of us come from different backgrounds. And unfortunately, what happens in our society does affect us, in our community it does affect us. So you'd find that if there's something that's happening at home, you look at the statistics for divorce, for example, currently, they are very high. And students, even though I teach those that are becoming adults, you realize that they are still children. You don't just wake up and you're an adult there and there. This is just someone who just turned 18 and they're 19 and they're still figuring out how to be this adult. And they heavily depend on their home, they depend on their community or society. And what's happening in that society can actually affect their ability to learn, their confidence in themselves. And you find that if they are not someone that talks about things, they would keep things. I mean, we all know teenagers, they don't like talking about their issues. They want to keep them to themselves. And so they would come and they're with friends, and instead of airing it out and finding a balance and equilibrium within themselves, then they keep it all. And when they keep quiet and they have to learn something, or not even in class, but even at home, because we have a lot of asynchronous activity, where I actually believe that most of the learning that takes place in any person actually happens when you're alone, surprisingly. So when you're sitting by yourself with a book, or you're watching a video, whatever it is that's learning, that's where you absorb the most, because it's you, yourself, no one else around you, with your own learning style and pattern. You are trying to get this information. And unfortunately, that time is also a time where you can get lost in your thoughts and in whatever it is that's happening. Imagine at home, people are arguing, and here you are, you're trying to read and study. The mind gets lost, because you try and think of the current problem and try and solve it. It can be even in our community, in our country. You know, we talk about fuel costs rising, food costs rising, and you sit down as a student, and if you're away from home, that's another thing. You have a budget, and you're like, yo, I was given this much. And when it's time to learn, instead of you actually being there, the mind goes, okay, so what am I going to eat when I'm done with this? And obviously the learning stops there. Yeah. So it's real life that is affecting students. I usually tell my students that, you know, as a human being, you have to have a higher source of power that you can appeal to. And I tell them, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. And so when things get hectic, even if it's an assignment or work that I need to do and things are hectic, I actually take a moment and I go and pray. And I ask, or take a break from it, go read my scriptures, so that I can first feel myself and connect to that power. Then I have the strength to come and do what I need to do. So I tell them, number one, you need to have a higher source of power that you believe in, that you know can help you.
Yeah, I didn't even think of some of them. So I was like, wow, that's really true. Because like a lot of people do come from different walks of life, and you don't really acknowledge some of like the most extreme backgrounds. I like that you mentioned that, you brought that up. Yeah.
And there are like a lot of challenges that the students go through that I think are sometimes neglected. And I think with that, do you think that the current education system supports students' well-being? I know that's a bit of a...
You're gonna get me in trouble, right? So, I think that educational institutions are becoming more aware of the need for mental health for students, or at least a positive mental health. And they are, I think, trying to raise awareness, but whether or not it's reaching the students in a way that makes them comfortable enough to go and get the help, I don't know. But I do know that SACAP, where I teach, they always make sure that they let students know that if you need mental health guidance or professional help, please do, and they let you know how to do it. And on the other side as well, for me as a facilitator and educator, there are tools that I can actually use. So if I do observe that a student does need help, as you see that sometimes it's a change of behavior, sometimes it's performance, where you can see that the student actually does perform well and all of a sudden they are not performing, so there must be something. And I can reach out myself to the institution and let them know that I think you need to have a chat with the specific student, because I can see that something is going on and they're not ready to talk, or I don't have the tools. As I said, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how to go about and help them, but I think they do need help, and the institution does reach out to them and offer them the services. But there's always more that can be done. There is always more that can be done. And you can see, really, when you're in an institution and students drop out, and it's none other reason, it's not finance, because finance is one of the reasons that students would drop out. But if it's not finance related, I don't think there's any justification for any student dropping out of any educational institution, other than that there's something that stood in their way, which probably was linked to their mental health.
Sorry, I was thinking, you were mentioning that, so many people have like a lot of struggles that they have as students, and let's say because you work at SACAP, which is basically kind of like a college for psychology, what have you seen are some of the tools that they implement at SACAP that are not so often implemented in other universities that could help to promote mental health?
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so in my observation, I always say that SACAP is a wonderful place to be in, because before you are a student, they do acknowledge that you're a human being and you are different. So even in the expressions themselves and what students wear, sometimes I look and I'm like, okay. And then I realized, actually, they are expressing themselves. So I need to understand that this is who they are at the moment. So you find somebody deciding to come wearing all black, the face is tinted black and all of that. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm just glad you're here. So one of it is that I think they allow the students to be themselves. Within reason, of course. You can't come and you're disturbing the whole scenario. I always say dress. Obviously, you have to be dressing appropriately, but you can still express yourself in the way that you feel at that moment. And then the other thing is the classes that are smaller, because then if the classes are smaller, then you are able to actually see the student and engage with them and have some kind of a working relationship with them that allows you to tell when something is right or when something is going wrong. So that smaller classes helps. And I think the other tool, like I mentioned before, is the system that is there that allows me to literally just go and click, a page that I can input information and describe as best as I can what I'm observing with the student, and then give an instruction, please do actually talk to the student and help the student. So those are all there, and they are, there's no negotiation on that. It's something that students know already exists and is there. And then the rest, I think it's also with the educators or the lecturers that they hire. they take a moment to make sure that I myself am in the right space of mind. So if I also need help, I just have to send an email. You know what? Right now I'm feeling so much pressure, and I cannot handle the pressure at the moment. So can I just, get help? Then get help. And then there's also that freedom of being myself. So nobody comes to say, yeah, so this is the module, you're teaching business management, and you have to make sure that students understand. Obviously, there is a module outline that guides me on what it is that I need to make sure by the end of a class or the whole module that students understand. But as to how I deliver that, it's my prerogative, my personality. That's why when you attend a class, it's not the same. So say you attend a class this semester and you didn't do so well and you want to repeat it, it's not the same, because I work with the students who they are at that moment. How I deliver is based on who they are and obviously the needs of the module. And then you find that even the lecturers themselves, they're not the same. They all have different personalities. And the institution tries to make sure that they do get people with different personalities, because then it's best for you as students.
No, I really do like that, because it's about you as a facilitator being yourself. It's about the student being themselves. And I think with the approach SACAP has, it kind of allows the student to really learn for themselves. You're not just studying for exams to pass, but whatever you learn, you're able to actually use it, because like you said, the resources are given to you, and you need to learn how to use them to make them productive, right? So I mean, as a SACAP student myself, I have seen the difference. Like I can go out there and actually use what I've learned. So it is really, really special. But I think even with being yourself, students still experience a lot of pressure. Where do you think this pressure comes from? They have this pressure of wanting to succeed, but where do you think that pressure comes from?
I think that in a real world that we live in, where you have to grow up, you have to take care of yourself, and possibly think of how the cycle of life continues, meaning at some point you probably have to get married, you start your own family, and it's wonderful, because now, unlike back then where the roles were a little bit more stricter, that you have the man takes care of you. If you're a woman, or you're the woman, you have to stay at home and watch over the kids, and that's all that you need to do. So now we live in a world where there's a lot of freedom that is there, and besides it being freedom, but it's also an information world where there's a lot of pressure with what is it that you know and how do you use what you know. So I think that students can see that as you grow up, you need to be able to take care of yourself. And for you to take care of yourself, you need to have some knowledge, because if we talk about South Africa, you hear that there's a lot of people with degrees, but they're sitting at home because there's no opportunities. And so you're now relying more on the gig world that exists, where you have to kind of create your own employment or be an entrepreneur so that you can run your own business. And that comes with, you can't just do that without having knowledge. You'll make a lot of mistakes. You learn on the go, but it will cost you more than if you come into it with some knowledge at least that you have. So I think the pressure is there that you need to take care of yourself. So you have to do something. And also social media, we can't lie. There's social media that exists. And the world has become a smaller place where you're like, oh, but people my age are doing this, so what am I doing? And you want to be able to do something as well, that you can, have your own Instagram, have your own followers and all of that. So, which I think is good. I think it's okay. The only problem is when there's no pressure.
I think a lot of people that are maybe like influenced today and want to have like a social media presence comes mostly from the financial strain of how things are so costly these days. And so they're trying to make, some maybe try and make ends meet, others are looking for like a shorter way to make money. And then we go all the way to online and social media and focus on like creating, and of influence there that we forget that, even when it comes to how to make it and really be successful in life, it's more of like going the long way and doing the little things like studying, staying late till night to write an exam. All of those things will actually lead us to a better job than just trying to create like a social media presence. But since we are on the topic of social media and some unhealthy and healthy habits, what are some habits or mindsets that you see that students struggle with that they can maybe change to help them achieve academic excellence and also while at the same time helping their mental health?
Okay. So, I say that back then, again, I like saying back then, I don't know how old I think I am now, back then, but we lived in a period where you have peer pressure, and it's still peer pressure even now if you look at it as social media, but I always say that there is positive peer pressure and then there is negative peer pressure. And so I think that social media is playing that role where you can get peer pressure, and depending on what it is that your interests attract, it can be positive and it can be negative. And I say positive because for myself, I'm a visual learner. And if I have to learn something, I want to read about it and I want to hear about it and maybe watch something that helps me to connect ideas. And I think social media provides that, where there's a lot of opportunity for us to actually learn so much, because there are people that are actually doing good on social media and they're educating depending on the interest of topics. They equip you with skills that are really, really important. And you need to be able to know how to use your resources, as we mentioned earlier. And Instagram, TikTok, and all the social media platforms are resources that we can use, but you have to be careful what you follow. So my son calls it doom scrolling, and then he's like, oh, you just scroll and scroll. And I say, yeah. And you realize after 3 hours or 5 hours that actually I have done nothing. All I've been doing is seeing this and that, laughing about this, laughing about that, seeing something useful, and for a long time seeing something that is absolutely worthless, but hey, it's fun, I was laughing. And time is gone. And that 5 hours, is 5 hours that you'll never get back. Never. No matter how much you wish, you can never get back. And so sometimes I wish students can understand that it's okay to take a moment to search what is out there, because that's how you get ideas. But you have control of what it is that you allow yourself to spend time in. Okay. And then I say for me, the fourth one would be spiritually. So did what I do contribute to my spirituality and who I want to be? If at least one of them is sorted, but if my social one is 100% and my intellectual one 5%, then what are my goals? What am I doing? It's not balanced. So we need to be balanced.
Yeah.
We need to be balanced human beings.
And it's just have a reason for doing something and make sure it's like educating you or just uplifting you in a certain way. So I really like that. And I think what I took from you today is that we should use our resources in ways that will benefit us. The resources like social media, AI aren't there to, disrupt us, but rather to help us grow. So that's really nice.
That's true, and I think 5 hours can turn into 5 hours now, and then tomorrow another 5 hours, and then before you know, a week, a month has passed. So I like that you mentioned that, we have to really work on time management, how to manage our time. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining us for the podcast and having us ask you a lot of questions about what it is to have in mental health included and implemented in a whole academic setting. So now I get to our favorite part, which is a game. So for this game, we're going to give you different scenarios. So we have 5 rounds, and we're going to give different types of questions, like different options. And then you have to rank them according to like what is most important in a student's life. Okay. So round 1, what is most important from sleep, good grades, social health, social life, mental health, and discipline.
Sure. Those are all important. So I must rank them. Okay.
Which one is first? Which one is last? Which order? Like, yeah.
You know, if I say sleep, it's going to be a problem because then 8 hours sleep, a full 8 hours sleep.
I love sleep, so.
Yeah, so I think it'll be number one. Excuse me. Then the second one would be discipline.
True.
I think discipline comes next. The third one. Wait, so you've got 5. What was the last 2?
Good grades, social life, mental health.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to reorder. Sleep, mental health, discipline, grades, social life.
I like that. Yeah.
In that order.
The fact that sleep is up there.
Yeah.
Can't do anything without sleep.
True.
Okay,
Okay.
and then round 2. So this is the coping mechanisms, right? So which coping mechanisms do you think is most important? We have talking to someone, journaling, avoiding the problem, exercising, and taking a break.
I would say journaling comes first because I think that before you do anything anyway, you have to understand where you are yourself. And journaling can solve a lot of problems. You might end up not needing to do anything at all that is drastic because you get to understand yourself. So journaling first, and then if journaling doesn't work, I think talking to someone would be the next best thing to do. And then exercising. There's something about exercising.
Yeah.
Exercising. And the last 2, obviously, avoiding it is not an option, I hope. And the 4th one was?
Taking a break.
Taking a break, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, nice. I don't know about your journaling is a lot of writing. Wow.
It's nice
It's a lot. But now we have apps that make it easy for you. You can just talk to your phone,
Yeah.
let it transcribe, and it's actually more therapeutic, I think, than writing. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting, but
And I think you're real with yourself also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, round 3. Sources of pressure. So rank the biggest pressure to the least.
okay.
Family expectations, social media, academic workload, self-pressure, and financial stress.
Sure.
Biggest pressure to the least.
The lowest. Okay, you're gonna have to remind me that's a lot now. Okay. So I think financial pressure would be at the top. Because money makes the world go round. It can solve lots of problems, but also it can create lots of problems. So finance, and then social media will be the next. Yeah, and then the third one would be, I think, personal as well. But sometimes because we are our worst judges. So I think personal one as well can be the third one. And the last 2?
Academic workload and family expectations.
Okay, family expectations will be the next one. And then the academic workload, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there, but I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for round 4 is what schools prioritize. So rank what the education system focuses on most. Again, I'm putting you on the spot.
Want to be in trouble.
So we have grades, discipline, mental health, performance or results, and then personal development.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to average this out so that I don't pick anyone out. Then I won't be in trouble. But I think personal performance, because with every institution you want students of substance who can actually be able to make a difference in in any place that they go to, and they always carry your certificate, their alumni to wherever they come from. So personal performance would be the first. Now this is ideal, but I think it is. They put it first, okay? And then grades. After grades would be?
There is mental health. Did you speak about mental health? Yeah, and discipline.
Yeah, discipline comes after, I'm hoping, but you see, this is the thing with mental health. I think it's at the least, because it really is in reality, because if I had to average it out, there's a lot of people that need help, and I don't think it's been given the enough attention that it needs, so it will be at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this game is difficult. Someone is supposed to be having fun. I don't know if I'm having fun here.
It's fun. You're thinking about it.
Yeah, it's helping something with the mental capacity or something.
You said we need to do things that, help us grow in one aspect. So the aspects that you shared with us. Intellectual.
But that was it from us and the podcast team. Thank you so much, Eunice. We enjoyed this episode, and I think I learned so much from you. So thank you so much for being our guest, and I hope our viewers out there will be able to take in a lot and consider a lot and their life academically, how they can improve. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having me. It's refreshing to just sit and talk. I love talking, so I can do it all day. But let's just hope your viewers enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, well, till next time, guys. See you. Bye.
Bye.